So even though it breaks through the ground, it's still not time yet, Minister John Renee. It's not time yet. You can see it, but it's still not ripe. Then it keeps growing. Wait, not yet. But then there's a time when it's ripe, and it's time to reap. Sorry about that. So you put in the sickle, and you benefit from it. So when you see reap, when it's time to reap, it's ready. It's ready. But see, suppose you ain't spend no time at the farm. You ain't spend no time watering. You ain't did no laboring. Well, you barely was at the farm at all. And you just threw some seed out there. You ain't take care of it. You didn't take care of the soil or nothing. And well, I got to go out here and make sure it's aerated. It's breathing and all that. Man, it's not even all that deep. When you hear reap, how's that person respond? A little different. Because they've been, we talked about it in the 9:15, don't take the path of the poor. See, that person's slothful. A little sleep and a little slumber. It says your poverty will come as an armed man. No, it says a little sleep, a little slumber, a little laziness. So you're taking your time with lazy. You're not aggressively lazy. You're just lazy in increments. Right? But it says poverty doesn't match your laziness in increments. It comes aggressively like an armed man. But you take it for granted. It goes back to the message, why are you surprised? Well, I notice this person over here, it seems like their crop just keeps popping up. Why are you surprised? Why is my crop not popping up as fast as theirs? Why are you surprised? You can't possibly be surprised, are you? God is not mocked. What you sow, you reap. Right? Okay, so let's keep going here, because the interesting thing is, I gave you this. Let me give you this scripture, because we're going to spend a little more time with this. Because I talked to you about your responsibility to sow and to reap, but when God says it's a time to reap, some of your harvest won't be necessarily because of your labor. But we'll look at Proverbs, I think it's 13. Proverbs 13:22. It says, a good man leaveth inheritance for his children's children. Remember we said that inheritance covers double generations. So a good man, those that you consider yourself good person, is leaving enough for not just their children, but the two generations deep, right? Children's children is 2 generations deep, right? But some of us so selfish, we ain't leaving nothing for ourselves, let alone for the next generation. But I said some of us selfish. I don't know. Is that you? Is that you? Is there one? Right. So, but then it says here, the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. So that means they're sowing seeds and producing wealth, but they decided to separate themselves from God. But there's a harvest sitting there waiting. And it says that's laid up for the just. Right, now let's go to John 4, verse 38. It says, look, I sent you to reap that wherein you bestowed no labor. Other men labored, but you are entered into their labors. It says, I sent you where you have not sown to benefit from the work of others. See, because the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. Mr. Sam said, yeah, that's me. And I think the message said, without lifting a finger, you've arrived in a field worked long and hard by others, but you'll benefit from it. But now it says it's laid up for who, Terrence? For the just. So it's not laid up for everybody. Right? It's laid up for the just. Now, our scripture tells us in Romans 1:17 that, because we want to figure out who's just, right? Right? So Romans 1:17, what does it say? The just shall live by something. By faith. Oh, so let me get this right, Terrence. The wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just, and God is sending us to reap what we haven't sown. So those that are going to reap are the just. And we can gauge who's just because they're living by what? Faith. What? No. Are they visiting faith? Do they got like a faith moment? Like, you had like that big blowout. Like you catch a ball on your helmet type thing. I'm not dogging out David. I'm not really. I was just saying, But that would be like a faith moment, right? Because like if he did that like 17 times in a row, then it would be like he catch like that for life. Like, just throw it to his helmet, man. Just throw it to his helmet, man. He just, right? But that would be like a moment, right? I mean, he's a man of faith, so that's why I said I wasn't dogging him out. Right, so it says the just shall live by faith. Oh, faith life is different, ain't it? Right, so you're in a marriage, right? So you live in a covenant, or do you stay somewhere else? Y'all live together. Seriously? Y'all roll together? So y'all love each other. Do y'all visit, love? Natalie. Stay with me.
Okay. That's just joking.
It's only been a year. It takes a little more time to, for her to get it right. All right, so I'm saying in living together, y'all and loving each other, do y'all visit this love, or is this something that's a part of your everyday life? It's continued. It just keeps on going, right? Even when you're not ready for it, right? Right? So that's a life of faith is something that I live. So whenever something is placing a demand on me, faith comes out. Because I live for faith. I live a life of faith. I don't visit. This is how I live. So I'm not like wondering where God's at, because since I live a life of faith, God's always around me. I'm talking to him all the time. When I make decisions, I know God's there, so I'm not going to do anything that I wouldn't do around God, because since I'm looking through faith lenses, I know God's watching. Ain't that right there? Right? So that person that's living this life of faith, all this wealth is laid up for. So when it's a time to reap and God sends you where you haven't sown, see, that person can hear God. When the opportunity comes where he wants him to make that acquisition. Tell you, a man of God who lives by faith, him and his wife in harmony, they had bought this property. So, you try to make, you're making a decision, you buy the property, you figure it's a good investment. But basically, they wasn't really getting any return on the investment. So he decides to sell the property to get some money for the property. So he's at closing. Huge property. Wife breaks into the closing and says, God told me that we're not supposed to sell this land. And he's looking at her like, are you serious? Do you know how much money they're about to give us for this? But because they were in harmony, in agreement, and flowing together, and the just shall live by faith, he heard her. He heard some reap language. So it's like, cool, no problem, we're not selling it. Well, they end up striking natural gas on the property. And they found oil on the property. They actually run a ministry off of the property. They have the guy's son-in-law has a huge church on the property that's just on the property. They have an airplane hanging on the property with about 8 airplanes. The government pays them to use their gas. So they don't pay nothing for gas. They don't pay nothing to heat, oil, or nothing. They want for nothing on this property. This is a man of God. They got a printing press on the property. All because the just shall live by faith. listening to God. It's another guy. He goes, he decides to, he wants to start a church. And so he ain't no money, but he sees this property. So God talks to him about the property. He's talking to them. So I'm going to use a fictitious name. So he says, Tim, the owner of the property, he says, I don't know what it is, but something different about you. So then somebody offers the guy some money for the property. Tim has no money, but he's believing to get a loan. So the guy says, tell you what, Tim, you can only get this amount of money for whatever reason. Something's telling me I'm supposed to give you this property. So what I'll do is I'll give you the property. I'll cover the rest of the money for the loan. So this guy was about to give me what I wanted. You're giving me less, but I'll cover the difference. Because I'm supposed to give you this property. Well, as soon as he gave him the property, they found oil on the property. They started manufacturing oil. The guy never spent a dime. And the $1.7 million the property cost, he got that in the first month. Before it was over, I think he made like $300 million on some property that he didn't even have money to get because he heard the REAP language. Now, have your overtime do that for you. Now, that was just two. I can go on and on here. See, that's what I'm saying. When God says something, see, we're so outside of hearing God. Just shall live by faith. So if I'm living by faith, I'm listening to God all the time. I know that voice. So when God says something, I hear him. Now how am I rolling? All right, so let's bring it down to a little closer to home because that's probably like way out of the stratosphere for some of y'all. God tells us to start a church. So I started working on paying off debts. I paid off one of our cars. We decided we're not buying no new car. We bought cars like every 2 years, with the exception of my wife having her moments where, well, I know it's only been a year and a half, but suppose I get a car and the payment don't change. See, my wife just do all different types of stuff. But anyway, so behind the scenes, I'm making sure, I think I was talking to somebody about this recently, I'm making sure bills get paid, making sure her needs. So her needs that she knows and her needs that she ain't going to know until 5 minutes before the need. So I anticipate them too. So, you know, some people can relate, right? So I forgot about something, no problem. So I act like, all right, babe, I have to really think about this. All right, go ahead, you can go ahead. Like it was really costing me. No, I knew it was coming. So we paid off a car, paid off one of the cars. We're getting close to paying off the second car. Well, she loses her job. Well, she didn't lose her job. They worked to the death, and she said, honey, I'm a soldier, but I gotta leave this place. My eye's jumping. She was so stressed out, her eye was jumping. I said, well, babe, listen, the job ain't worth your life. So we just have to do what we have to do. Now, I said, I can't tell you to leave because if you have buyer's remorse, then you can be like, you the one that told me to leave. I said, but I'll support whatever decision you make. So she came home, and we had like $1,200 in the bank after I paid off all the other stuff. I skipped the story. She lost the job because they shut down the school. That's what happened. And they only gave her $1,200. That was the severance. So we had a bill that we're trying to pay off. It was $6,700. So they called her the week of that she loses the job. The same week. And they said, well, we can settle it for half. So y'all just got to get to know me. My wife's the negotiator. I don't negotiate. It's real simple for me. We don't have it. So she called me up. I said, we don't have it. Well, babe, suppose I can get them to cut it down less. I said, well, we got $1,200. So she went down and they came back with $2,500. I said, babe, we don't have it. I said,